Seriously mentioned in the same breath as the great Reg Gasnier. This week, after a cruel run of injuries, Rogers finally had to accept defeat. A broken jaw in the first premiership match for Cronulla cost him the 1985 Australian season, so he had headed to the UK, where a broken leg 13 minutes into his first match there cost him the rest.
I kept, hoping against hope that, things would come good and I'd be able to resume playing this year, but the doctor informed me today that although things are progressing satisfactorily, everything's where it should be, that it's taking a lot longer than we anticipated, and he said that should I try and play this year that I was risking permanent damage, so it's not worth that.
No thoughts of playing next year or anything like that?
The problem with that is the fact that 1987, I played 5 or 6 games in 85. I'm not going to play any games in 86. So you're talking about basically, 2.5 years out of the game. And I think, at that level of football, it's pretty tough to come back into that after that sort of break from the game. So I'm retiring now, and there is, I suppose, a remote outside chance that if I feel well enough and prepare myself well enough for 87, that I may come back and have a lash, but I doubt it.
There are some bitter disappointments for Rogers, who underwent 2 operations this year in a vain bid to force his way back. He never won a grand final, and the record 4th Kangaroo Tour he wanted so badly will never come.
Missing that Kangaroo Tour does disappoint me, but I suppose the biggest ultimate disappointment is just not being able to play anymore.
It's not the way anyone would like to end a career, is it?
No, it's not. I'd rather be remembered, Bob Millward again today. He said you should be remembered walking off the field, not walking out of a doctor's surgery, which is a fair comment, I suppose.
Rogers first played rep football for Brisbane second. In 1973, he moved back to Sydney to be rejected by the club he'd supported all his life.
My dad was a St George fanatic, always had been, and probably always will be. Even when I was playing with Cronulla, he certainly supported me, but I think he still was supporting St George at the same time. But he and I both went to St George Leagues Club when I was 17, and we spoke to Frank Facer about playing with St George, and because I was also a St George supporter, I must admit, and he at that time said, look, you're a bit young, go away and come back, when you're a little bit older.
He went to the Sharks, bursting onto the test scene the same year and playing in Cronulla's first grand final. About the same time, another representative career was born. Mick Cronin, who with Rogers provided the greatest centre pairing since Reg Gasnier and Harry Wells.
Mick's organising ability and ability to set up play was just made it so much easier for me. I didn't have to worry about trying to set up play or organise play. Mick would do that, and so I just hang out outside Mick, and 9 times out of 10 you find yourself running into space. It makes it so much easier.
In a career of pinnacles, Rogers Everest was in 1981, captaining Australia against France.
I think probably my greatest thrill would have to be captaining Australia, though, in 81. I think it's every player's goal to play for Australia firstly, and then to be able to captain your country is the pinnacle of what you're striving for.
In the meantime, Rogers is planning a future as a coach.
I've been involved with a lot of great coaches over the last 12, 13 years, whatever. And if I can put a lot of their good points together and come up with some sort of coaching formula of my own, well, I'd be hopeful of getting some results.
For some, it may sound a little trite, but in the true meaning of the word, rugby league has really lost one of its greats. John Brady for Sportsworld.